Have you ever thought about how someone could be disliked before they even enter the world? The story of Esau in the Bible raises a powerful question that makes us reflect. Esau was the older twin, born with strength and promise, yet his future was marked by an unusual and painful twist. Before he had done anything, a divine message foretold that he would one day serve his younger brother, Jacob. But what led Esau to become the person we read about? Today, we'll look closely at the key events that influenced his journey and try to understand why God chose such a unique path for him. From questionable choices to the emotional reunion with his brother, Esau's life teaches us more than just a story about family. It reminds us that people can change, grow, and find a new direction. So, how do you see Esau's choice to trade his birthright for a simple meal? Was it a careless mistake, or was it just a part of a plan already set in motion? If you're enjoying these deep and powerful Bible stories, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Our next episode will leave you amazed. In ancient Canaan, there lived a couple whose names would be remembered forever. Isaac, son of the great patriarch Abraham, and his wife Rebekah, who hoped with all their hearts for a child. Time went by, and their hope for a child seemed to fade. Still, they didn't give up. Isaac prayed with all his strength, asking God to bless them with a child. And then, the miracle happened. Rebekah finally became pregnant. But what started as a joyful moment soon turned into worry. Inside her, she felt an intense struggle, as if something was going wrong. In search of answers, Rebekah turned to God for help. God responded with a surprising message. What he told her would shape the story of her family and the course of history for generations. When the time came for her to give birth, everyone around her waited with excitement. Then something unexpected happened. Not one baby, but twins were born. The first had a reddish skin tone and was very hairy. They called him Esau, which means hairy. Right after him came his brother, holding tightly to Esau's heel. He was named Jacob, meaning heel holder or one who replaces. From the start, the difference between the two was obvious. Esau, the firstborn, grew up into a rugged man, a skilled hunter who loved the outdoors. He was bold, tough, and acted on instinct, spending his days exploring the wild. His appearance matched his character, rough and untamed. Jacob was the opposite. He preferred staying near home, living a quiet life among the tents. He was thoughtful, clever, and had a natural talent for planning and negotiation. While Esau was out chasing animals, Jacob was learning the customs of their people and mastering the art of trading. The contrast between Esau and Jacob wasn't just about their character or lifestyle. It also showed in the way their parents loved them. Isaac seemed drawn to Esau's bravery and physical strength, which likely led him to favor his eldest son. He admired the scent of the wild Esau carried back after his hunts, and especially enjoyed the game Esau cooked. Meanwhile, Rebekah felt a closer bond with Jacob. She appreciated his calm and gentle nature and the fact that he stayed close to home. Much later, the prophet Malachi would speak powerful words about these two brothers. In Malachi 1:2-3, NIV, it says, "I have loved you, says the Lord. But you ask, how have you loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Declares the Lord. Yet I loved Jacob, but Esau I rejected. I turned his mountains into a desert and gave his land to wild animals." At first glance, these words seem harsh, but they aren't about personal emotions. Instead, they reveal God's broader purpose and choices for the future. This wasn't about Esau being a bad person. It was about the different roles they were destined to play in the unfolding story of their people. Back then, being the firstborn was a major privilege. The oldest son inherited the majority of the father's wealth and, more importantly, received the family's spiritual blessing. That blessing passed down the promises made to Abraham, that through his descendants all nations would be blessed. But things didn't go as expected. The prophecy given to Rebekah before the twins were even born, that the older would serve the younger, slowly started to come true. Though Esau was the first to be born, the course of his life began to drift away from what tradition would have predicted. Just like in our own lives, sometimes things change in ways no one saw coming. In those moments of uncertainty, I hope your heart stays steady, your thoughts remain clear, and your days are full of peace. May blessings surround you, and may God's light show you the way forward. If these words speak to you, be sure to like and subscribe for more uplifting prayers and meaningful Bible stories. Even though their parents never openly stated their preferences, both brothers felt the difference. Esau, secure in his birthright and his father's affection, lived without giving much thought to the future or the weight of his choices. Jacob, on the other hand, was always aware that he came second, and that fueled a quiet, persistent desire to rise above his position. The sun blazed overhead, heating the earth and making the air shimmer like a mirage. It was a tough and arid place, but in that dry land, something important was about to happen. What started as a normal day would soon become a turning point, one that would shape the future of two nations yet to come. At sunrise, Esau had already set out, bow in hand and a quiver slung over his shoulder. He headed deep into the wilderness, determined to catch some wild game. But as the day wore on and the sun blazed down from above, the hunt grew more and more difficult. The animals seemed to have vanished, likely taking shelter in cool caves or deep shade, far from reach. Back at home, Jacob was going about his usual chores. Now and then, his eyes wandered toward the distance, scanning the horizon, sensing that something unusual was about to unfold. Eventually, as the golden sun began to sink in the west, a lone figure appeared in the distance. It was Esau. Worn out, empty-handed, and barely standing, he dragged himself toward home. The proud hunter looked nothing like his usual self. His strength was gone, replaced by exhaustion and hunger. The smell of something cooking drifted through the air, and it hit Esau like a wave. He turned toward it instinctively, his eyes locking onto the pot bubbling over the fire, Jacob's lentil stew. "Brother," he said hoarsely, his voice barely more than a whisper, "please let me have some of that red stew. I'm starving. I feel like I might collapse." Jacob noticed him but said nothing at first. He studied his brother closely, recognizing the desperation in his eyes. Only the sound of boiling stew and Esau's heavy breathing filled the space. Then Jacob replied calmly, with words that carried weight. "Sure, but first, sell me your birthright." The request hung in the air, almost too bold to believe. The birthright wasn't just about wealth, it meant leadership of the family, spiritual authority, and the promise God had made to their grandfather Abraham, a promise meant to pass through generations. But Esau, too weak to think clearly, didn't stop to consider what was at stake. He blurted out, "I'm dying of hunger. What good is a birthright if I don't survive?" Seeing his chance, Jacob pushed further. "Swear it to me now," he said. In a moment of weakness, Esau gave his word, and just like that, with a few careless words, the exchange was made. A priceless inheritance was traded for a simple meal. Jacob handed him some bread and the stew. Esau ate and drank until he was full, quenching his hunger and thirst. But what he gave up in that moment could never be undone. The rights of the firstborn were gone, exchanged for a bowl of lentils. After finishing his meal and feeling the hunger fade, Esau stood up and walked away, seemingly unaware of the gravity of what had just happened. That short moment between brothers, spoken casually near their tents, would leave a lasting mark, influencing generations to come. Esau's behavior revealed a lot about who he was. He lived for the present, acting on impulse and emotion. In that moment of weakness, driven by hunger and fatigue, he failed to understand the true meaning and importance of his birthright. By giving it up so easily, he showed a lack of foresight and little respect for his family's spiritual traditions. Jacob, on the other hand, was sharp and strategic. He knew exactly how valuable that birthright was and didn't hesitate to take advantage of his brother's desperate condition. Though his move was ethically questionable, Jacob demonstrated a deep awareness of spiritual matters and a fierce determination to secure the future he believed belonged to him. In the days that followed, tension quietly settled over the household. Esau, now recovered and back to his usual routine, seemed to forget the exchange altogether. He continued his life as a hunter, as if nothing had changed. Meanwhile, Jacob remained quiet about what had taken place. He didn't boast or make demands. Instead, he held on to his claim in silence, waiting for the right time to step into the role he now believed was his. Word of the agreement, however, didn't stay hidden. Rebekah soon heard about it, perhaps by overhearing a conversation, and likely felt some relief or even approval. She had always believed Jacob was the better choice to carry on the family's legacy. Isaac, the father, remained in the dark. His failing eyesight made it hard for him to notice the subtle shift between his sons or detect any change in their dynamic. This moment in the story makes us think deeply about our own values. What matters most to us? How quickly do we trade something meaningful, whether spiritual, emotional, or material, for something that only brings short-term satisfaction? The story of Esau and Jacob challenges us to look at our choices and reflect on what truly lasts. It also reminds us that even the smallest decisions can echo far beyond the moment. Esau's impulsive choice didn't just affect his own life, it altered the future of his descendants. Often, we don't realize the significance of our choices until much later, when the outcomes begin to unfold. The birthright exchange also brings up questions about destiny and free will. Was this simply the prophecy coming true, that the older would serve the younger? Or were these events shaped by each brother's actions and decisions? As time passed, the results of the deal slowly became more visible. Jacob, now the rightful heir in his own eyes, grew more assured. He began taking on more duties within the household, gradually preparing to become the leader he believed he was meant to be. Esau carried on with his life as if nothing had happened. He didn't seem to regret the trade he had made or even reflect much on it. But even if he appeared calm, something had shifted. The quiet tension that had always existed between the two brothers was starting to build, and it was only a matter of time before that tension would explode, leading to consequences they could never have imagined. This moment in their story reminds us that every choice we make matters, even the ones that seem small or insignificant at the time. A single decision can change the course of our future. That's why we must seek God's wisdom in all things. He knows everything. He is the all-powerful Creator, and His knowledge is beyond our understanding. Let us use the wisdom He's given us. If you believe that God is guiding your steps, write Amen in the comments to show your trust and share your faith with others. The story of Esau and Jacob, especially the part where the birthright was traded, still sparks thought and discussion today. It's more than just an ancient story. It speaks to all generations about family dynamics, the weight of our choices, and how fate and free will can intertwine in unexpected ways. That evening, as the sun dipped behind Isaac's tents, no one fully grasped the ripple effect of what had taken place. What had started as a simple meal had set the stage for future events that would shape not just lives, but entire nations. The journey of these two brothers was far from complete. What lay ahead would be even more powerful and life-changing. Many years passed after that pivotal moment when Esau gave up his birthright for a bowl of stew. On the surface, life in Isaac's household seemed to go on as usual, but underneath, destiny was slowly moving toward the next turning point in this family's history. Isaac had grown old. His sight had faded with time, and he could no longer see clearly. Feeling his age and the approach of death, Isaac knew it was time to pass down the blessing, a sacred tradition with deep spiritual and cultural meaning. One peaceful afternoon, Isaac called for Esau, his eldest son and the one he favored most. Though his voice had grown weaker with age, it still carried the dignity of a father and leader. "My son," he said, "I am now an old man, and I do not know how much longer I will live. Take your hunting gear, your bow and arrows, and go into the fields. Hunt an animal for me, prepare a meal the way I love it, and bring it to me. After I eat, I will bless you before I pass." Esau, eager to honor his father's wish, wasted no time. He quickly gathered his weapons and left. The sound of his footsteps faded into the distance, just as someone else stepped into the light. It was Rebekah. She had been nearby and heard the entire conversation. Her heart pounded. She knew this moment was crucial and something had to be done quickly. Jacob stood frozen, overwhelmed by the weight of what he had just done. The guilt of deceiving his father pressed heavily on him, but the plan had worked. The blessing meant for Esau was now his. As he quietly slipped away from Isaac's tent, Esau returned from the fields, proud of his successful hunt and eager to receive what he believed was rightfully his. He prepared the meal with care and brought it to his father. "Father, it's me," Esau called out as he stepped into the tent. "Please sit up and eat the food I've brought you so you can bless me." Isaac, suddenly alarmed, asked, "Who are you?" "I'm Esau, your firstborn," came the confident reply. A chilling realization swept over Isaac. His body trembled uncontrollably as the truth sank in. He had been tricked. "Then who was it?" he asked. "Who brought me game earlier? I ate it all before you arrived, and I gave him the blessing, and it will stand." At those words, Esau broke down in anguish. He cried out, "Bless me too, Father, please." His voice cracked with sorrow and disbelief. But Isaac, now filled with grief, responded, "Your brother came and deceived me. He has taken your blessing." Esau's pain turned to fury. "No wonder he's called Jacob," he cried. "He's cheated me twice. First he took my birthright, and now he's stolen my blessing." Then, desperate, he turned to his father again. "Isn't there anything left for me? Any blessing at all?" Isaac gave him an answer that must have felt like a blade to the heart. "I've made him master over you. I've given him all your brothers as his servants. I've provided him with grain and wine. What more can I give you, my son?" Still, Esau wouldn't give up. His voice full of emotion, he begged again, "Please, Father, bless me too." And he wept loudly. Isaac, moved by his son's pain, finally gave him a blessing, but it was a hard one to hear. "You will live far from the earth's riches, far from the dew of heaven. You will survive by the sword and serve your brother. But one day, when you grow tired of it, you will throw off his rule." Isaac's words echoed in the stillness, setting the course for both of his sons and the people who would come from them. Jacob had succeeded in securing the blessing, but at a great cost. Esau's heart burned with hatred. "My father will die soon," he thought, "and then I will kill Jacob." When Rebekah learned of Esau's plan, she acted quickly. She summoned Jacob and urged him to leave at once. "Go to my brother Laban in Haran," she told him. "Stay there for a while, until your brother calms down." And so Jacob left. He walked away from his family, his home, and the storm he had helped create. He carried the blessing with him, but the consequences of his actions would follow him. Ahead lay distant lands, unexpected trials, and the journey of a lifetime, a journey that would challenge both his strength and his soul. Even as time passed, Esau continued to carry the weight of bitterness and unresolved anger. He was determined to reclaim what he believed had been taken from him unfairly. What began as a small division between two brothers had now become a deep and painful separation. Their story forces us to reflect. How often do we let our immediate desires cloud our judgment? How much are we willing to compromise just to reach our goals? The paths of Esau and Jacob, once tightly intertwined, had now split completely. While Jacob traveled to far-off lands, Esau remained in Canaan, his life beginning to take turns that would not only shape his own future, but that of a nation. Esau, the rugged outdoorsman and skilled hunter, now stood at a turning point. The loss of his father's blessing and the fracture in his bond with Jacob left an emptiness he would try to fill in different ways over the years. At the age of 40, a significant milestone in their culture, Esau made a choice that deeply hurt his parents, Isaac and Rebekah. He took 2 wives from the Hittite people, Judith, daughter of Beeri, and Basemath, daughter of Elon. This decision brought great sorrow to his family. The Hittites followed customs and beliefs very different from those passed down through Abraham. In Genesis 26:35, the Bible simply says that these wives were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Behind this short verse is a deep heartache. Their son's marriage didn't just go against their wishes. It seemed to pull away from the sacred promise given to Abraham, weakening the spiritual line chosen by God. We can only imagine the tension that filled Isaac's home. Rebekah, who always believed Jacob was the right one to continue the family legacy, likely saw Esau's choice as more proof of that belief. Isaac must have felt torn. His love for Esau remained, but his son's decisions stood in opposition to everything he valued. The presence of Esau's wives brought new traditions and unfamiliar beliefs into the family setting. The tent that once centered around Abraham's faith and devotion to God now found itself challenged by foreign practices. This cultural and spiritual conflict surely caused friction and unease within the family. Esau, whether unaware or intentionally rebellious, seemed distant from the pain his choices caused. Maybe in his sorrow and anger over losing his father's blessing, he deliberately chose a different path, one that broke from his family's roots. Whatever his reasons, those choices shaped not only his own destiny, but also the legacy of those who would come after him. Years went by. Life continued. Esau began building his own household, apart from his parents. He remained a respected man in the community, known for his skills as a hunter and his independence. The strong, wild son of Isaac had carved out his place in the world, but far from the one his parents had once envisioned for him. Esau's children were born and raised, learning both their father's traditions and the ways of their Hittite mother. But then one day, news arrived that would stir up old emotions. Jacob, after many years in exile, was returning to Canaan, and he wasn't coming back alone. Jacob brought with him his wives, children, and great wealth. For Esau, hearing this must have reopened wounds that had never truly healed. His brother, the one who had tricked him and taken both his birthright and blessing, was now returning, not in shame, but in triumph. In response, Esau made another key decision regarding marriage. Aware that his Hittite wives had always displeased his parents, he chose to marry again, but this time with a different intention. He approached Ishmael, his father's half-brother, and took Mahalath as his wife. She was the daughter of Ishmael and the sister of Nebaioth. This choice was no accident. By marrying into Abraham's extended family, Esau seemed to be reaching back toward his roots. trying to reconnect with the heritage he had drifted from. It was almost as if he were silently affirming what is written in Galatians 3:29. If you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's offspring, heirs according to promise. Esau's third marriage reflected a deep part of himself, a longing to be accepted, to be part of the legacy that he had once been destined for. Though his earlier choices had pulled him away from his family's spiritual path, this marriage seemed like an attempt to repair what was broken, to restore some connection to the promises of God. But time had already set things in motion. Esau's decisions, along with the blessing Jacob had taken, had already carved out a different road for him and his descendants. Eventually, Esau and his growing family moved away from Canaan to the southeast, settling in a mountainous region. This move wasn't just physical, it symbolized his separation from the chosen line. Esau was no longer part of the land promised to Abraham's heirs. Instead, he began to build a nation of his own. In the southeast, Esau flourished. His descendants multiplied and became strong and influential. Over time, they were known as the people of Edom. In Genesis 36, the Bible records their genealogy, naming the many chiefs and rulers who came from Esau's line. The land of Edom became the home of Esau's people, a prosperous nation that would go on to play a significant role in the larger story of Israel. Esau's life, born as the first son of Isaac and Rebekah, was filled with both privilege and pain. He had the birthright, one of the most important positions a man could hold in ancient times. But in a moment of hunger, driven by impulse, he traded that great privilege for a bowl of stew. That quick decision revealed much about his nature, someone who gave in to the present without thinking of the future. It was a choice that reshaped his destiny and the future of his descendants. Later, when it came time for Isaac to bless his firstborn, Jacob disguised himself and received the blessing instead. When Esau discovered the betrayal, he was crushed. His heartbreak turned into fury, and he swore revenge, creating a rift between the two brothers that would take years to heal. Esau eventually made the choice to leave his family behind and settle in the land of Seir. There, he established his own kingdom, Edom. Although he never received the official blessing from his father, Esau didn't let that defeat him. He built a powerful nation with strong roots and a promising future. Yet, the relationship between Edom and Israel, the two nations that came from Esau and Jacob, remained strained. The bitterness and rivalry that once separated the two brothers lived on in their descendants. Their history was filled with conflict, but also moments of uneasy peace. The tension between the two brothers found its reflection in the ongoing friction between their nations. Even without the patriarchal blessing, Esau proved that a person's future isn't defined by what they lose, but by what they build. His story shows how determination and resilience can still lead to growth and influence. Though Esau and Jacob eventually made peace, they never lived together again. Their physical separation mirrored the distinct paths they and their descendants would follow. Their story is a powerful reminder of how the choices we make, especially in the family, can leave lasting marks, not only on our lives, but on generations to come. Esau's journey teaches us that disappointment doesn't have to be the end. Even when life takes an unexpected turn, we can still create meaning, build something lasting, and leave behind a powerful legacy. The nation of Edom thrived for centuries. Rich in natural resources and located along key trade routes, it became strong and influential. But despite its prosperity, Edom's relationship with Israel remained rocky. There were periods when Israel ruled over Edom, fulfilling part of Isaac's earlier words that Esau would serve his brother. But Edom also rebelled, eventually breaking free and fighting for its independence. One of the most intriguing aspects of Esau's legacy is how he's remembered in religious traditions. Jacob is celebrated as the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, while Esau is often viewed as the one who gave away his birthright. But if we take a closer look, Esau's story is more nuanced. Yes, he was impulsive and at times careless, but he was also capable of deep emotion, of forgiveness, and even nobility. His act of reconciliation with Jacob, welcoming him with open arms rather than revenge, speaks volumes about his character. Esau's legacy invites us to think about some of life's biggest questions. How much do we value our heritage, both physical and spiritual? How do we deal with family wounds? Can we find healing even after betrayal? And how do our decisions ripple into the future? His story is a reminder that history often highlights the victor, but the other side, the one less told, can hold just as many important lessons. In Esau, we find a complex figure, a man shaped by his flaws, but also by strength, forgiveness, and resilience. Although the Bible centers most of its attention on Jacob's descendants, it also acknowledges the strength and prosperity of Edom. This shows us that Esau's journey, though different, was equally significant. His life reminds us that a person is not defined by a single decision or moment, but by the full story of their actions, growth, and relationships. One of the most powerful moments in Esau's story is his reconciliation with Jacob. It shows that even the deepest family wounds can heal with time, humility, and forgiveness. Esau's journey continues to speak to us today, encouraging reflection on how our choices and relationships shape the legacy we leave behind. His life is a rich emotional story, marked by hard decisions and lasting consequences. From being born as the first son, to trading away his birthright, to experiencing betrayal and eventually forgiving his brother, Esau's path teaches us lessons that go far beyond ancient history. It's not just the story of two siblings. It's a reminder of how powerful forgiveness can be, how important it is to think through our decisions, and how even painful choices can lead to growth and understanding. But here's the question: do we truly grasp the impact of our decisions? Are there moments in life that, once they pass, can never be undone? Just like Esau's birthright. Take a moment to think about it. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced a life-changing decision? How did it shape your journey? If this story touched you, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. That way, you won't miss more inspiring Bible stories like this one. Thank you for being with us today. We look forward to sharing more powerful stories with you in our next videos.